Well, that's the case, Kerry. It's reflected. Those storms are literally reflected on the stock market too. They've tracked.
That's correct. That's
storms correct. Connection. So yeah, there is a definite behavior connection, and it makes sense.
So the question is, did you happen to see what happened to the market this week? Because I actually haven't been paying attention this week to the market. Not that I'm such a fan anyway, but I at least try to tap into the news once in a while. And simply because I was traveling, I wasn't really having time to do that.
I didn't, because I moved deeper into the castle over this last week, Kerry.
All right.
So I'm not up to date on the market. Now, the stock market really is just a snapshot at a certain point in time. Now, I do know this. The world markets have improved only because it looks like Greece is trying to cope with their almost totally collapsed economy. It's kind of like in the movie V for Vendetta, where he hit one domino and everything else fell. It doesn't really take a large economic powerhouse in the world to create a world event, because it can domino. So, for example, if Greece goes, then Italy would go, and so forth. So, what we're seeing is maybe a little stabilization, but the point of this whole scenario that's going on economically anyway is that they're continuing to move toward a world monetary unit, and they're well on track. I mean, they're just very adamant about making that happen. And so they're going to try, they being the banks, the central banks, are going to try to collapse the market when it comes time. Now, I have heard rumors that we have, so to speak, a shot across the bow or a warning about when that's going to occur. And so I don't think this is scientific, but it's the rumor that I'm getting, and information and intel that I have, is that once the Iran war starts, shortly after that, look for a total collapse of the world monetary system so that it moves into a world monetary system. And that's what I'm getting. So,
okay, well, yeah, absolutely. I want to say that I've got a couple sources of information in regard to the global financial situation and the war scenario, if you want to call it that. One of those is a whistleblower that is a deep source, came to me recently and was telling me, actually more than one has been telling me, that May seems to be the month. And that's a little worrying. I don't know if you're getting that information.
I'm getting information that the Federal Reserve notes are going to be devalued to 1/3 of what they are this fall, winter, this October, November time frame. That's what I'm getting as far as the Federal Reserve note, or the American money. And I haven't heard too much rumbling about May, except for the Iran war. So that might be the connection. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about a possible war with Iran. This is interesting because two of my whistleblowers, and a deep source that just sort of popped up lately, are talking about something going on that will trigger basically the Israelis, taking action against Iran. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but what the hell. Apparently there's going to be some kind of there's going to be an incident, something to do with a ship and something to do with the Italians, believe it or not.
Well,
that's an interesting connection, and it has to do with also the Gulf there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if that creates a problem for you, Kerry, we've got room. We'll put a cot up deep inside the castle for you. So.
Okay, well, castles sound, that sounds like a fascinating venue. I don't know.
I would have to say, I really do. I would have to say that we're on a precipice economically in this world. The bailouts, we're the bailouts. We have a rogue government. We have everything out of control from the people, and their mindset for the general public, I believe, is this total dialectic scheme that they fell into. Once they thought that, well, the Republicans were doing bad things, so let's put a Democrat in. And now they're just getting more of the same, and the change that he was talking about was to put us deeper into tyranny. And so they think now the change is to go back to Republican. And I don't think until this public in general begins to realize that they're being played like a bunch of puppets, that they're ever going to escape this dialectic back and forth approach to an ultimate goal that the world ruling elite have. And I haven't mentioned this probably ever, but we have a business that puts us in contact with 5 to 10, maybe not 10 every day, but 5 to 6, maybe 7 millionaires on a daily basis, and each one of them for investment purposes. And each one of them has absolutely no confidence in either the Republican administration that Bush had, and even less with what's going on with the Obama. And they're very concerned, and very, very concerned about where the country is going from the standpoint of its being nationalized, socialized, and centralized. And that's what I always like to look at it as. I really don't care what we label it. But when we centralize control in a government, the people always lose freedom. They always do. And they are the last people, they being the government, that needs to run our lives. We know what to do.
Yes.
I don't think they understand that where these government workers and people come from is the public. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, we're really talking about the dialectic, which is the union of opposites, and that opposites are used to corral the people. And so they hope that you'll take sides, whether it's Democrat against Republican, or, one country against another, or a religion against another religion, or male against female, you name it. We're looking at the opposites going on the planet here, and this being the third dimension. As we move into the fourth, people are going to have a different, more global consciousness happen, and that's what we're all about promoting here. So, yes, indeed, taking one side over the other is an absolute absurdity at this time. What one needs to do is really discern what is coming, and then also sort of work to make the best world that you know how, and also think as positively as possible, I think, without closing your eyes to what's coming. And there's an interesting balance to be had there, and we've had the discussion with David Wilcock on that subject as well. So, I encourage people to stay awake and aware on every level. And we'll see what's happening. I have another whistleblower who encourages people to read, this is the book he said, 7 Days in May, to get the paperback. Right. It's an old book. It's been out, for many years. And he's saying the movie does not contain the information. It's actually in the book. So, I'm going to try to read that before May gets around here. And I think that's an interesting statement, because if that's true, if you know anything about the movie at all, you know that there was a whole build-up sort of coming to a head in terms of nuclear weapons and so on. So I think it ended up to be a standoff of some kind, but I don't quite remember what happened in the end of the movie. But at any rate, that's kind of what we might be looking at in May. And what can one say about all that, except that there are agendas that are being rolled out, and there are battles that they want people to fight, and they're going to be sending more and more troops out to fight their wars for them in this regard, because they do